Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are discussing finance in the after-crisis period. And of course, we all, as we heard also this morning, are still raising the question, are we in an after-crisis phase? But we will have some responses to this question just in a moment. Or are we in the midst of the beginning of the end of the financial crisis, to quote the minister? We have a very stellar panel here. I will not introduce everybody because you know the panelists here on the stage. I will make two exceptions. Of course, we are very pleased, Minister Lagarde, Christine Lagarde, that you are with us, the Minister of, I always have to be precise, Economy, Industry and Employment of France. And I would like to use this opportunity to express also my personal and the World Economic Forum's high appreciation for you, German Greff and Sberbank, for the excellent cooperation which we have, not only on this occasion, but on many other occasions. We will try to have a very lively discussion, not long speeches, so I repeat it here. And the first question which comes in mind after having seen this excellent introductory film is, of course, the question, are we out of the crisis, and what are still the risks, the systemic risks, which we will face in the near and longer-term future by coming out of the crisis, responding to a certain extent to the questions which were raised in the introductory film. Joe Ackerman, would you start and share with us your wisdom on those issues?
Thank you, Klaus. Well, it is obvious that the causes of the crisis are more complex than it is mostly described in the media, but also in the normal political debate. And if you go through the crisis, starting from global imbalances with an expansion in monetary policy in some parts of the world, lack of supervision, also regulatory deficits, and of course also to the strong desire to own real estate in some parts of the United States, even for those with low income and low wealth, and many other reasons which are a little bit beyond the immediate response we have found so far. But it is clear that banks have made a tremendous negative contribution to the financial crisis. It is bad risk management and it's bad management in general. And I think if you boil it down to the major issues, it is debt. We started with an indebted household sector in many parts of the world. We had indebtedness in the banking sector, we call it leverage, and of course we have a high debt indebtedness in many countries. And the question is, are we dealing with all of that? I think where we are making tremendous progress is in responding to the risk management and the increased resilience of the financial sector as certainly one of the consequences of the crisis, more capital, more liquidity, but also we are talking about resolution regimes, how can failed banks exit the market, we are talking about compensation structures and many other things. These are all very important questions, but you should not forget that some of the other challenges which I mentioned in my introductory statement are still valid, and I think it's very important that we start tackling these as well: global imbalances, sovereign risk, and of course also the indebtedness of private sectors and in some regions also the corporate sector. I said to political leaders last night here in Petersburg, I think there are two issues which are very important for all of us, namely, are we living beyond our means? Are we taking control of that? And secondly, do we have a bubble in real estate or an asset inflation, as we call it? In that sense, I think the next step where we are working on Europe and the United States, but also in many other parts of the world, namely to have a macroprudential supervision, where we are also trying to explore what kind of asset inflation issues we have going forward. And a little bit contrary to Mr. Gogol, I would say, yes, we have to take care of the present, but we should start actively asking ourselves what are the threats of the future, because in many ways we are learning from the lessons of the most recent crisis, but the next crisis, and I'm pretty sure there will be ups and downs in any market economy, will maybe have different features, and we should be prepared to answer them as well.
Joe, the stock markets are a very important factor in the creation of confidence. And before I ask Dominic Cerutti, as being the CEO of one of the largest, if not the largest, stock market, are you confident about the fair value at the moment given to assets? Because this is a crucial question, certainly.
Well, when we talk about asset inflation, of course, we are talking about different categories of assets, but the stock market itself has actually valuation levels in most countries which are reasonable. In some countries there is a lot of fantasy for even more pronounced growth potential. That's above all the case in many emerging economies, but I would say in the industrial world valuation levels are on a very reasonable level given the risks and the profit potential and growth potential we are seeing.